I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'm annoyed. I'm just a tad bit annoyed because if you didn't watch this Dolphins game, or maybe you shut it off after the first half when the Dolphins were up 17-0 and they were really rolling, maybe you thought the Dolphins had this game in the bag. Well, I'm here to tell you that they, in fact, did not have this game in the bag, as they would end up losing to the Carolina Panthers 27-24. And the reason that I'm annoyed is because it was actually a pretty exciting game. There was a lot of back and forth in the fourth quarter. So it really sucks just to lose those hard-fought games late in the game. It sucks. Now, by no means am I mad, because I'm not surprised at all. You know, I know FanDuel, the sponsor of today's video, had the Dolphins favorited at 1.5, and I did pick the Dolphins to cover that spread. But that doesn't mean that I'm shocked that they lost. You know, I'm a vet at this. Just like when the Dolphins were up 17-0, I didn't feel comfortable because I've been watching Dolphins football for over 15 years now. So I know better than to pencil in any game as a win, because I saw a lot of that on Twitter. I saw a lot of reaction from Dolphins fans that were shocked, and they said, how do you lose to the Carolina Panthers? How do you lose to Bryce Young? The Panthers have been a joke of an organization for the last several seasons. This was supposed to be an automatic win. And I'm here to tell you that all these other teams the Dolphins face, that Dolphins fans think are free wins, those teams feel the same way about us. The Miami Dolphins are not above anybody in the entire NFL, because they've kind of been a pitiful organization for pretty much my entire life. That's why I'm not mad. I'm not shocked. Your boy is not surprised, because they can lose to anybody on any given night, and they typically do it in very embarrassing fashion, like we saw tonight, giving up over 200 plus rushing yards. What'd they finish with? I mean, Daryl had 206 yards himself. The Dolphins gave up 239 rushing yards. Oh my God, it was like everything right up the middle. And the part that is so disheartening is this D-line was supposed to be one of the few strengths on this team. You just paid Zach Sealer. He's dog water. Chop Robinson finished last season strong. He was supposed to get better. He didn't. Bradley Chubb, he actually recovered a fumble today and has a few nice sacks this year. So he's been one of the guys that hasn't been too disappointing. Even Jalen Phillips got a sack today, first one of the year. So I do feel good for him. But Kenneth Grant, first round pick, can't even start. They got a bunch of bums on this team. That's what the Miami Dolphins have. That's what it comes down to. To start the game, you actually did get some pretty exciting play from Darren Waller, who came out the gates hot, and I really feel good for him. And I do want to publicly apologize, because a few weeks back, I was comparing him to Will Fuller and Odell Beckham. I said I want to assemble a team of Dolphins bums, and it was going to be those three guys as the captains. But Darren Fuller, well, the boy looks pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you. And I do feel good for him too, because I've heard him on some podcasts after the last game where, of course, he played really well, had a couple of touchdowns, and he basically talked about his journey over the last several seasons where he went to the Giants and it didn't really work out well, and then he retired, came to Miami, got hurt in training camp, and he really didn't know how productive he could be in this league. And of course, having the kind of game he had last game really gave him a lot of confidence. So I felt good for him. You know, and then coming into this game, Tua was looking for him early, all over the middle of the field, just finding him, had a nice long pass early as well. And it's just nice to give Tua a big target finally. You know, he had one with Jonnu Smith last year. They ended up trading Jonnu. And I think having a weapon like that is so important for Tua, a guy who likes to work in the middle of the field. And those two had a great connection today, which kind of leads me to another reason I'm annoyed, which is Darren Waller finished today with 5 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. The reason I'm annoyed is because all of that production was in the first half. I don't think Darren Waller had a single target in the second half, and how the hell does that happen? I know Carolina adjusted and they tried to take away the middle of the field. I listened to Tua in the post game, and he said, we were good in the middle of the field early, but then Carolina really stacked the box, so I was forced to throw to the outside. I understand that, but that's no excuse to give Darren Waller 0 targets in the second half. He is a 6'6" big body. I don't care if he's getting double teamed. He's the only guy out there doing anything. The least you could do is give him a target or two, throw it up to the big man, let him try to make a play. I mean, what does the guy got to do? He had 80 yards and a touchdown. Can't get one target in the second half? Come on, Tua. I don't know. I think he has to be better than that. But really, I don't want to just blame Tua. I don't think anybody was good today. Of course, specifically the defense. I mean, we'll jump into the second half because the first half was decent. Devon Achane, nasty catch for a touchdown, got both feet down. He's a hell of a player. He has been another positive of this season so far. I like him a lot. He's a game breaker for sure. But he had a touchdown early on. You had Darren Waller with the touchdown early on. And then I think the Dolphins were up 17-0 at half. I think that was the score. And then in the second half, everything fell apart. I mean, Carolina continued pounding the ball all game long, which was very disappointing because, one, they had their backup running back, Chuba Hubbard, didn't even play. It was Rico Dowdle today doing all the work. And two, it's like you just got dominated in the run game last game, by the Jets, whether it was Breece Hall or Braylon Allen or whoever else they had out there. Justin Fields obviously was running all over the place. I was hoping the D-line, would have showed some kind of heart today and said, hey, we're playing the Panthers. Let's use this as a get-right game. Let's play tough, hard-nosed football today. But no, they're running all over the field, down your throat. The Dolphins defense was getting gassed like it was Mark Sanchez. Is that joke too soon? I don't know. I made the same joke in yesterday's post-game video with the Hurricanes. Maybe it was too soon then. Maybe it's not too soon now. I don't know. Y'all let me know. But yeah, very disappointing effort from the Dolphins defensive line today. They're all bad. They're all pretty bad. Chop Robinson had a bad penalty, late hit. And just they continue to be an undisciplined football team. But I guess even outside of the defense being awful, the offense still had a chance to win this team the game. Because the Panthers would climb all the way back. They would take the lead. And then to Tua's credit, he had a beautiful throw to Jalen Waddle. It was like a 40-yard touchdown. Almost all of it was air yards. Maybe it was underthrown by like a yard, but I'm not going to be too picky with Tua there. That was a good throw to Jalen Waddle to give the Dolphins the lead there. And I saw a tweet from Barry Jackson after that where he said, this is the first time Tua hasn't thrown a pick when down one possession, under 5 minutes to go, in like 13 games or something like that. I don't remember the stat. And I'm thinking, okay, you're speaking a little too soon there. I think he said in 13 games, right? So I'm like, there's still more time left in this game for Tua to throw a pick and ruin it, because the Dolphins would take a lead with Jalen Waddle, but then the defense can't stop the Panthers. Panthers will go all the way down the field. But Dolphins had a chance there. Couple minutes to go, 3 timeouts, more than enough time to go down the field and get a field goal to at least tie, right? But no, that's when Tua starts to completely crumble like he usually does under pressure. Like he always collapses under pressure. We saw it again. He had one throw to Jalen Waddle where Waddle was wide the hell open, would have been 15 yards at least. Could have been 20 yards and much more, but Tua overthrows Waddle by 4 or 5 feet over his head. And that one would have been picked. It might have even been a pick 6, but fortunately, Jalen Waddle was able to get the very tip of his fingertip on it and knock the ball just out of reach of the Panthers defender. Otherwise, Tua would have once again thrown a pick. I'm just very disappointed in Tua. He's maybe average at best, but when it comes to these late game situations, it's ugly to watch. And I'm listening to the broadcast today, and I thought the broadcast was fine. Of course, it was Eric Collins today making his NFL debut. If y'all don't know Eric Collins, he's the famous Charlotte Hornets announcer that gets all crazy. I like Eric Collins, and I appreciate his excitement. I saw some mixed reviews on him on Twitter and how people felt because some people are like, oh, he's too exciting, makes everything a big deal. Other people are like, oh, you're a party pooper. What, you don't like joy? Excuse Eric Collins for trying to making a game exciting, which I get. I do appreciate his enthusiasm, but it's like if you call every single play like it's an amazing play, then it kind of takes away from the amazing plays. You know what I mean? Like when there was a 12-yard slant to Waddle and Eric Collins is like, oh, Jalen Waddle. And then Jalen Waddle has a 40-yard touchdown and it's the same reaction. You know what I mean? Just kind of takes it away a little bit. But anyways, I like Eric Collins. More so, I'm listening to the broadcast, and so many times they keep talking about Tua's anticipation and how that's such a great thing for him. And I'm like, if your only skill is anticipation, that's not a good thing. Because the second something goes wrong, Tua's cooked. The second he gets a little bit of pressure, the second there's slight miscommunication with the receiver, the Dolphins have no chance of connecting on a passing play. And I know Tua did get pressured a lot today. What's the new the young old lineman, the guy Savi Noah, the Polynesian guy, that guy, he's cheeks. And I understand it's only game 5 of his career. He's cheeks. Okay, he's awful. And yeah, Tua got pressured a little bit, but it doesn't help that Tua is a complete statue in there. If he had any sort of mobility whatsoever, he'd be able to get out of some of these areas and maybe have a chance to throw the ball downfield. But then again, as soon as Tua is moving, it's off script, and once Tua's off script, they have no chance. That is what it is. He's just a complete statue in there. And I know there's a lot of Tua stands that are going to respond to that, and they're going to say, what about this play versus this team? Or I think Tua did have a nice rollout throw versus the Jets. So they're going to say, what about this play? But it's going to be stands cherry picking plays when in reality, those are the outliers. Because 90% of the time, Tua is a statue in the pocket. And as soon as one little thing goes wrong, they're cooked. 90% of the time, when it's a one possession game in the fourth quarter, he's going to throw a pick. He's not going to deliver. That is what it is, So those are basically my biggest gripes with Tua today. But we got to talk about Mike McDaniel, because late in this game, when we were just talking about Tua overthrew Jalen Waddle, the Dolphins were lucky to not get it picked. That was on second down. On third down, Tua would get sacked, and it would end up being like 4th and 15. I think like a minute to go in the game. And I'm thinking, okay, you got one final shot at this. Try to get 15 yards. Maybe you could go down the field and kick a field goal to send the game to overtime. And the Dolphins line up in punt formation. What? You have only one timeout left, I think? A couple. No, I think they would have said the 3 timeouts, I guess. 3 timeouts, whatever. But it doesn't matter. The point is, you're trying to punt with a minute left in the game when you know damn well you can't stop this Panthers run offense. You've given up over 200 rushing yards, and now you think you're going to stop them? Are you kidding me? Punting the ball with a minute to go is ridiculous. Oh, that is so asinine. But the Dolphins would punt. We all knew they would never get the ball back, and that's exactly what happened. Rico Dowdle had a couple runs. It was 3rd and 5. And then the Panthers were actually going to let the Dolphins off the hook. They threw a pass on 3rd down. It wasn't caught, but it was pass interference on Jack Jones. Automatic first down for the Panthers, and that would essentially end the game. So if I had to rank people in terms of blame today, I guess number 1 is either between Tua and the defense, but I'm going to put the D-line number 1 just because they're embarrassing. They are embarrassing. I listen to my guy TD Fins talk, who does a great job on YouTube talking Dolphins, and he doesn't talk much about the defense just because he's not surprised that they're playing poorly. And I get it. We didn't expect this Dolphins defense to be good, so it doesn't make sense to keep harping on that point. But we didn't expect the D-line to be trash. At least I did it. I expected strong seasons from Phillips and Chubb and Chop Robinson and Sealer. Like, I expected them to have a strong, and Jordan Brooks. Like, I expected them to have I expect that to be the strong point of this team. And they're a sieve. They're a complete sieve. So I'm going to blame them number 1 overall for today, because anytime you give up over 200 plus rushing yards, that's a problem. Number 2, I'm going to blame Tua because he had a chance late in the game to deliver. Once again, he choked. And then I'm going to blame Mike McDaniel because I don't know what the hell he was doing today at all. I don't know if there was anything else that I forgot to mention about this game. Maybe there was a few things. I don't remember. We talked about Waller, talked about Waddle. Overall, the numbers today for Tua looked really good, actually. 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. So passing game was decent, but then you look at the rushing game, only 19 yards rushing. Remember when the Dolphins came to this season and said, we want to change our identity to be a more tough football team. We want to be a more hard-nosed football team. Well, you just got out rushed today like 230 to 19. So how about that? How's that for being tough? At least the Dolphins did get their first pick of the day, pick of the season, I guess I should say. I think it ended up being Minkah Fitzpatrick. Yeah, Minkah Fitzpatrick with 1 pick today. But yeah, Passing game was okay. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill's absence did get you 110 yards. Darren Waller 78 yards receiving in the first half. Devon Achane 30 yards, and that was pretty much it for the main guys there. And then in terms of sacks, you had the 1 sack from Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb with the strip sack fumble, and then Brooks and I guess Kenneth Grant did get half a sack. Good for him. Didn't even realize that. So I apologize, Kenneth Grant. You're still a bum though. Anyways, that's all I got to say for this video. I did check FanDuel to see the updated odds on some of the Dolphin lines. I did see that they have the Dolphins under 4.5 wins at plus 170. It's like, if you're losing, I know it seemed like the Dolphins could win only 4 games. It doesn't seem like they're that bad, but you just lost to the Panthers, who might have been one of the worst teams in the league. Do the Dolphins have another 4 wins this season? Because they need to win another 4 for it to go over 4.5. I don't know. Maybe you want to throw a little bit of bucks, a few bucks on Dolphins under 4.5 wins this season on FanDuel. But anyways, that's all I got to say for this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. The good news is the Miami Hurricanes moved up back to number 2 in the country, and the Miami Heat will kick off with their second preseason game. Is that tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow. The Heat will play the Bucks in preseason. So we got a few other things going on in South Florida. So make sure y'all tuned into the channel, subscribe, like, comment. All that stuff is greatly appreciated. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city, tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.